This is Rob Cairns, CEO and Chief Creator of Amazing Ideas at StunningDigitalMarketing.com. On this week's SDM interview show, I bring with me my good friend Deborah Thomas-Nininger, who's the founder of DTM Productions International. Deborah specializes in reputation management, communications effectiveness, business etiquette, communications, and self-presentation expertise to her clients. Deborah is probably one of the most positive people I know. We became friends on Twitter a long, long time ago, and we continue to communicate on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. She's also from one of my favorite cities in the United States, and that's Columbus, Ohio. She's also working on 2 books, which we'll talk about. And without further ado, we hope you enjoy this interview as much as Deborah and I did doing it for you. So sit back, relax, and enjoy my interview with Deborah. Okay, there we go. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm here with my good friend Deborah Thomas-Nininger, who's the founder of DTM Productions. How are you today, Deborah?
I am wonderful. Thank you, Rob. How are you?
Doing really good. And you and I have known each other, probably for 10 years or so on social media. Never met in person yet. There's always time. Well, you know, the way this world is, you'll cross paths at the most interesting time, right? In an airport, in a restaurant, you know.
Yes.
And you're from one of my most favorite cities in the U.S., being Columbus, Ohio, from one of the Buckeyes, right? So you guys must be really happy after what happened on New Year's Day, I would figure, right, in Ohio?
Yes, we are Rose Bowl winners and very proud of that.
Yeah, and I will say one thing before we get into today's topic. I've had the opportunity, been at the Ohio State Fair twice in my lifetime, and it's one of my favorite state fairs in the entire U.S. So there you go. So I've enjoyed that immensely.
Well, good. Glad that we treat you well when you're here.
Yeah, you do. And it's I have a couple friends who used to be down there. It's a bit of a healthcare city too, and they're both in healthcare. One was tied to OSU for many years, and another one was with one of the hospitals as a cardiac nurse. So, yeah, it's really interesting city. So, what I wanted to talk about today is kind of what you do on social media, the books you're writing, and, you know, where you kind of foresee business going and things like that. So, do you want to sort of give us a brief description of what you do and what your company does? That'd be great.
Sure. Well, many years ago, 20 plus, I launched a training program for corporations in the arena of soft skills. And my first program was business etiquette. And so back in the day, business etiquette was new to corporate America because most companies would spend money strictly on training the product, the sale of the product, the technical needs to know, but they did not train on people skills, also called soft skills. So now over the years, I have over 50 different soft skills programs, but I still seem to be known by a lot of people who remember me from the beginning, business etiquette. So I'm often referred to as the etiquette lady.
and there is some truth to that. If you have the pleasure of following or getting to know Deborah on social media, on Twitter or on Facebook, I would bet a lot of your posts are still around etiquette. Wouldn't that be true? Like kind of how to react with people, how to treat people, around that sense a little bit?
Absolutely. Yes, indeed.
And you and I were talking before we came online. I think that's a bit of an issue with some of these millennials today. They don't get the etiquette that we went through in our training in school or business or growing up. And I mean, I think a lot of it stems from just manners at home, actually, to be honest with you, right?
Well, so much of it has not been passed on to Gen Y, Gen Z. So when people talk about a behavior from a younger person that they take exception with, I remind them, well, maybe they don't know what they don't know. And so it's a matter of how can we pass the torch in a way that gives them that leg up, helping them realize how critical these items are.
What would you say are the biggest soft skills lacking with the younger generation today?
I think part of it is a lack of patience. And in today's environment, patience then rolls over into a perceived lack of courtesy, thinking that someone is being rude to you, someone who's not making eye contact, or they sound very dismissive. So I would put patience at the top of the list.
I would tend to agree with you. And I'm kind of smiling at you as we talk about this because I think what's caused that lack of patience is the smartphone, email, and things like that. And I mean, they're tools, but everybody doesn't realize just because you have a smartphone in your hand doesn't mean the response is a 5-second response. It doesn't mean because you send an email, I get a response in 10 seconds. But that seems to be an issue in the business world today, isn't it?
Yes. People want it and they want it now. They don't want to have to wait. And I'm as guilty of that as anyone else because now I have fallen into that immediacy trap myself because we have set such high expectations because of all that we have at our disposal, such as we have those phones where we know, okay, if I send you a text, Rob, I know you've received it. And most likely you've even looked at your phone, but how quickly you decide to respond to me then makes me feel either more or less important in that world.
So true. I mean, I'm even at the point where my CRM for business tells me when somebody's opened an email, and I just kind of look at stuff and say, oh, I accept it because I've grown up in that world, and I just say, oh, they're busy. I get it. If it was an immediate, if it was I need it now, I would probably follow the email up with a text often, you just,
Right.
because everybody's got a smartphone in their hand. But I think also what causes this even more so with the younger generation is, it's funny, I was talking to somebody about this today, that in our day, if we wanted something, we had to earn it and we had to work for it. Now the younger generation walks into a bank, says, oh, I'm a college student. Oh, yeah, here's a credit card worth $5,000, goodbye. And then they go out and they spend and they get what they want right away without earning it. And then they've learned from a younger age, everything happens instantly. So they goes back to the whole patience factor, right?
Absolutely, it does.
Yeah.
It's all woven together. And so now it's a matter of maybe taking a step back and doing what I call self-evaluation as far as mindfulness. That's one of the latest programs I designed. And I did it after researching different articles and studies from neuroscientists on the brain, health, mind, connectivity.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of this then, the benefactor of this is going to be people will perceive you as caring more. You're going to be kinder because the more mindful you are, you're going to be less inclined to be acting out impatiently.
I would agree. And it's simple things like, skills that we've lost. Like when somebody does something for you, say thank you. When somebody goes out of the way for you, maybe send a note in the mail and say, I really appreciate what you did for me. If, somebody helps you out, help them out when they need a hand. Like stop thinking about just you kind of thing. And if you start to do little things like that, then the bigger mindfulness things start to come, don't they? Did I lose you, Deb? Ah, I lost you for a sec. That's okay. Hmm.
We're back.
Yeah, we're back. It's the internet. That's okay. So I was saying the mindfulness. If you start to do little things, then the mindfulness does start to come a little bit, doesn't it?
It really does. And it's part of a journey. And as so many things are. So when you think about being mindful, it isn't as though, okay, you're finished. It's going to be a daily process of being in the moment. Because if I'm in the moment with you, everything from my tone of voice, my body language, my word choices, how I ask the right questions to show you that I have been listening to you, all of those things factor into people feeling more recognized, more appreciated, which again comes back to nothing more than everyday courtesy.
Oh, I agree. And don't you find that if you're not mindful at home, you're probably not mindful at work and vice versa kind of thing? Like the home and the work life tie so much into mindfulness and mindset and everything else, that it's all kind of intertwined?
It's interesting you mentioned that because I am an over-the-top positive person. I always have been, but it's a
Yeah.
choice I make.
Yeah.
So it's not something that's genetic. It is a choice. And so I have had people actually in my workshops, Rob, ask me, "Oh, Deborah, how are you really at home?" And I tell people I'm the same way at home as I am here with you because I would find it too challenging to have more than one personality. And so, by the way, the people who I share my life with, shouldn't they deserve the very best of me? Why would I only give it to my clients?
Oh, I agree, and being in business for yourself, if your home life isn't very good, the odds are that's going to transpire into your work life, whether you want to admit it or not, right? And then it's going to impact
Yes,
what you do for a living. I mean, how many times have we heard this? Don't take your bad days home. Well, guess what? People need not to take their bad days into the office either, right? It goes both
right.
ways, kind of thing.
It does.
It does.
Absolutely.
So, how did you, I'm going to digress for a minute. How did you actually get into this business? We've talked a little bit about what you've done in mindfulness. How did you decide to get into this line of work?
It, it was very much by accident because I did have a wonderful job where I was in charge of training programs for a Fortune 500 company. So I was working with a sales team and I reached the proverbial glass ceiling.
Hmm.
So as a woman, I had gone as far as I could and I was giving out free advice everywhere.
Yep.
And I recognized a need beyond the company that I was working with. So much to the dismay of my late father, he said, "Oh, no, no, you're not going to start your own company. You're not going to leave security, are you?"
Mhm.
And I said, "Yes, I am." And so this again, 20 plus years, actually closer to 30, and I have never looked back.
No,
So it's worked
I can
well.
understand that. Yeah, having done that myself, I 100% get where you're coming from, and it's a choice too, and it takes a special person to make a entrepreneur to make a company go. It's not just a case of throwing it together and say, "I'm here," kind of thing. You got to work at it every day. It's got different pressures. You need family support for what you do, which is a big deal. I really believe that. At least your partner support, and that kind of helps with that, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people think that if you're working for yourself and you have your own business as an entrepreneur, that, oh, wow, life could be cushy. And I tell people, actually, no, I work harder. I put in more hours than a person who works a 40-hour work week is unknown to me.
I would agree with you, and it's not just the working; it's the constant thinking about business. I'll tell people I've closed deals in the strangest places. I've met people in the strangest places. It's thinking about work. I mean, I go for a walk. I'll probably when we're done this call, I'll go for a walk for an hour, and I can guarantee you I'm going to throw an audiobook or a podcast that's business related in my ear while I go for that walk. So even though
Right.
that's not billable time, it's still working time. And that's what people don't understand, right? So,
Yes.
one of the things you talked about in your bio that I absolutely love, you did etiquette training for the 1996 Olympic Games in Atlanta. Another one of my favorite cities, love Atlanta. And how did that go? And was that a different challenge being a worldwide event than some of the other stuff you've done?
Well, it was a 2-year commitment. So leading up to the Olympics, that's when it all started, 2 years prior. And Coca-Cola has been one of my clients since
Yeah.
the 90s. And so because I did the etiquette training for them, they they have their own department of diplomacy.
Okay.
So Coca-Cola definitely is a phenomenal client. I adore them. And because of my relationship with them, the now retired head of diplomacy, Jean Michel Bach, a Frenchman, he selected me to be the one who would put together the international etiquette programs for all of the Coca-Cola ambassadors who were in charge of the Olympic Games. And he wanted them to go through all of the international do's and taboos because of hosting people from around the world. So it was fabulous. I love the opportunity. It's one of those things in my life that you kind of go through it so quickly, even though 2 years is not fast. But I also did the Paralympics. So with them, it was the Olympics, the Paralympics, and it was phenomenal. Their commitment to it, and also then the residual benefit from it, because they came across as very, very thoughtful to all of their guests, and they were very well prepared.
And Coca-Cola is known in the world as being one of those very progressive companies. They're not a company that sits back and waits for it to come. They tend to dictate the landscape for many other businesses, and they're really a model to be followed. I mean, they're just an incredible organization.
Yes, yes. Did you know that little trivia, that world headquarters in Atlanta for Coca-Cola, that their offices, their executive offices are modeled after the White House?
I did not know that. That's
Yes.
an
It's
interesting.
really interesting to look at it, like the circular dome and everything on the inside. You
Oh, I
would never
never
know
thought
from
of
the
that.
outside. It's absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, that's a really interesting story. It really is. And now you're working on two books, which kind of, we're talking about offline, but doesn't surprise me a little bit. One is the title's Reputation Management, Building Your Brand, love it. And the other is Tweetables for Life, which I love the title even more. I think knowing what comes out of you on social media, I would suggest to anybody it'll probably be a good read. Go get them when they come out. Um, the isn't building your brand and reputation management go hand in hand like every day?
Well, when I designed the book concept, when I would interview employers, when they would bring me in for workshops, and I would interview them and ask them, what makes one person stand out from another? With such parity from an education standpoint, maybe even their experience, why would you hire one person over another? And so the top 10 things I made a list of that I kept hearing repeatedly. And those are the top 10 things in reputation management, that they're not part of an education background.
Yeah,
They are really things that you personally manage yourself, that no one can manage for you.
that is so true. And you have to manage those things yourself, don't you?
Yes.
And Tweetables for Life, what are you kind of focusing in that book?
Well, I love positive, uplifting quotes. I love little pithy statements that grab my attention and I want to remember them.
Yep.
And so over the years that I've been on Twitter now, since 2008,
Yeah.
I decided I'm going to have kind of my top hits, and I'm going to put them into a book format. And the format is divided up into different categories: on optimism, on humanity, on etiquette. I even have a separate section for travel etiquette. So my little quotes that all come back to things that I have tweeted.
Yeah, and that I would say, if you're looking for some positive uplifting, follow Deborah on Twitter. Deborah, I share Deborah's stuff on a regular basis pretty well, and there's stuff that resonates with me every day. And I think Deborah is one of the most positive people I know. And I think some people need to kind of take your example. And even if they took half of what you did and put in their life would be 10 times better than it is now. Because, if you run around thinking negative with negative people all day, your life becomes negative, right? If you kind of think positive, your life becomes very positive. And that's so true, right?
Yes. Yes, and it is a choice. Being happy is a choice. But I do emphasize with some of my tweets,
Yeah.
when you encounter someone who's very positive and optimistic, do not assume that they don't have their share of problems.
That is so true. So true. We were talking also offline. I'm kind of going to go there a little bit about some of the work you've done in the hospitality industry, weren't we? And how much you've been running back to Vegas and doing some work with some big organizations there. Is that different than a lot of the other organizations, or is it just what they do is different?
I would say each industry that I train for, such as banking or healthcare or insurance, they all have their own special niche as to what they do and the type of interactions they have. When you think of the hospitality world, it begins with that word, hospitality. So they have a higher expectation of being very hospitable.
They do. Yeah.
So even though they're business people and they have budgets and they have their own challenges, they are expected to say it better, behave with greater graciousness, to be more thoughtful and more accommodating for their guest, whether it's a vacationer or whether it's a convention. And so I'm often training everyone from the butler team, the VIP team, front desk. I train sales, food and beverage, and even they each have their own separate type of interaction with guests and clients.
Yeah.
But again, it comes back to hospitality.
Oh, I agree. And I mean, a good example, restaurants are part of that example, hotels are part of that example. And you walk in to a place you go into regularly. And I know one of the things that resonates with me, even in Toronto, if I'm not doing business work, I walk into somewhere, I go into regular, and the waitress or the manager sits there and says, "It's really nice to see you again." They actually recognize their regular customers. And to me, I think that's really important. It makes you feel like you're wanted there as a client, and you want to spend time. And that's what hospitality is about, right?
Absolutely. And that is one of my tweetables. We like to do business with people who make us feel extra special.
Yeah, yeah.
And they also make eye contact with you so that they don't just say it. You can tell through their body language they mean it.
Yeah, and then they get rewarded from it too, because then the clients treat them better, and and it goes everything from, the friendly smiles to the income they take in. So it all comes back, right? And if you're not, frankly, if you're not being hospitable, you probably shouldn't be in that industry to start with. Right?
That is so true.
There are people who get into it because they think, oh, this would be glamorous, and I kind of think of the cruise ship industry or the resort industry, and they say this should be done. They work hard in those industries. Like I've stayed on
Yes.
resorts, and they work really hard,
Yes.
and it doesn't take much as a client to reciprocate and say thank you. It's a big deal, right? So
It is. And sometimes in that world, they also deal with very demanding individuals. So knowing how to de-escalate situations requires the right attitude and the right skill set.
yeah, it does, and then you get different people. Like I know my wife and I last January did our first trip into the Dominican, and we found a waiter in one of the buffets where we have breakfast every day that I can guarantee you every morning he knew what I wanted to drink on my table. He had my table that I like set aside for me because we were in the buffet when they opened. And he in the Dominican, what the waiters do is they make you part of their family, so they treat you like family. Now it comes back to them in multitude of ways, but by me feel that way. I kind of looked at my wife and said, I really like going into this waiter because he treats me well, and then you reciprocate, and it's just in that industry, and it makes you feel special, and that's what that hospitality industry is all about, is being made to feel special.
Yes. Yes. And so because there is, again, a lot of parity in Vegas,
Yeah.
then where do people want to return? And you have just given that reason why people go back to the same place
Yeah.
and give their money, give their business, is because of how they were made to feel.
And if people would concentrate, to me, it doesn't matter if it's the hospitality industry, the marketing industry, the computer industry, the healthcare industry, and they made people feel better, they would reap the rewards of that like tenfold, wouldn't they?
Yes.
Yeah, it's so true. It's funny. So you've done some work there. Do you have another project that you've done that kind of stands out, or are they all pretty similar?
Well, I would say each of my clients are uniquely different in their own way.
Yeah.
And part of what I definitely strive to do is to make sure that they don't feel they're getting a cookie cutter representation from me,
Yeah.
that I know them. So something that I try to do with every project is research them, check
Yes.
out their social media feeds, what are they posting, and then also I can sometimes give them recommendations that perhaps they need to beef that up a little bit.
Yep.
And so I try to find out, what is their heartbeat? What is their brand that they are trying to communicate? And some do it better than others. So when they know that I have invested myself in them, then that comes across as authentic, which is what I want to be always, that I'm the real deal. I'm very transparent. And also, I'm not trying to artificially schmooze them. So what I have put together, another new project, I have a series of books that are going to launch at the end of the year. But part of going back to the word impatience, Rob, people want things fast, and that also includes how quickly people can read things. So I have a mini manners, as in MINI, mini manners series, which will be very quick reads on a variety of topics, on travel etiquette, for instance. And every time I think I have that book finished, I'm on another flight and someone does something atrocious, like put down their tray and change their baby's diaper on the tray next to me.
Yeah.
And I think, okay, that's going in the book. And then I have one book titled, as part of the Mini Manners series, Las Vegas Etiquette is Not an Oxymoron.
So true.
Because the behavior by tourists, by conventioners who go to Las Vegas, I think you would not behave that way in your office, at home. You would not do some of those things that you do that are now going to be posted on social media.
Yeah, yeah, and they don't understand that you and I, if they're going to become one of my clients or one of your clients, we're probably, and my wife is a property manager, so I'll share that too. We're out there creeping these people all the time, and I don't know if creeping's the right word, but checking up on them. Like I know, for example, my wife, she will check prospective tenants up for to see what their pictures are like, and are they clean? Are they how they act? And then
Yes.
she says, "Wait a minute, maybe their credit check is good, but there's something here I don't like." And I'll look at prospective clients and say, you know, especially in small businesses, say, is this business fit in with my mindset? And does that work for me, kind of thing? And we all, so people who think social media and what you say on it, and you're a big stressor of this, that you got to say the right things, and they think people don't check it. That's is so not true.
Yes, they absolutely check it. Employers check it very thoroughly
Yeah,
before they hire people. I refer to it as most companies having their own internal social media police.
yeah,
So they check you out before they hire you, but they also keep track of things once you are on board,
yeah.
because companies are very self-protective, making sure that they don't have a lawsuit coming right around the corner.
And they happen all the time. I hate, especially in the United States of
Yes.
America. It's just kind of the land where everybody's just kind of deals with things in a lawsuit. I hate to say that, but you know.
Oh, no, it's a very litigious society in the United States. Absolutely.
Anyway, Deborah, you know, we've really enjoyed this chat. You and I have known each other for a long time, and it's always a pleasure. It's, you know, you're doing great work. Where can people get a hold of you, your website, if they want to get in touch with you, find out some more information about your books when they come out, and so on?
Well, my website, my initials, dtn-productions.com. And people are always welcome to email me with any questions, dtn@dtn-productions.com. And then on Twitter, I'm DTN Etiquette.
Yeah. And if I recall right, on your website, isn't there a sign up form where people can sign up for the book, the
Yes.
information when the book is released? So if you're interested, I would suggest anybody who wants to learn about reputation management or building a brand or tweets or what to say, what not to say, probably should go out and buy these books. You know, they're worth anything from Deborah's worth to read. So take your time, get them, and thanks, Deborah. And you have a wonderful day and a happy New Year.
Well, Happy New Year to you, Robin. I certainly appreciate you bringing me on. And a big hello to all of your listeners. Thank you again.
Thank you. That's a wrap. Thank you for joining us for this week's SDM interview show. We hope you enjoyed the show as much as we did doing it for you. The SDM interview show is a production of StunningDigitalMarketing.com, the agency that can help you with your digital marketing needs. For more information, please see our website at StunningDigitalMarketing.com or email us at hello@StunningDigitalMarketing.com. You can also call or text us at 416-624-7647. Also, check out our Facebook page at facebook.com/StunningDigitalMarketing, where we post daily Facebook Lives during the week to help you with your digital marketing and business needs. Also, check out our CEO's Twitter feed at Rob Cairns, spelled C-A-I-R-N-S. Until next Thursday, please have a great week. And this show is dedicated to my late father, Bruce Cairns. And miss you, Dad. And as Casey Kasem says, keep reaching for the stars, and you'll know where life is. Have a great day, everybody. Bye for now.